I know you're not supposed to meet people from Reddit. I knew that before I made the post. I knew that while I was typing platonic only please, and I definitely knew that when I added a selfie, which wasn't my smartest choice, but I'd just gotten a cute haircut and I'd finally gotten my eyeliner to match on both eyes. I was bored and restless and lonely, and I was tired of bothering the same 3 friends with the same 3 complaints. I said I was looking for platonic friendships because the last person I met hurt me more than I wanted to admit. The post was on r/make new friends here. I said I was 28F, looking for friends between 25 and 30. Within an hour, I had more than 100 DMs. Most were from men. Some were normal for a few messages before becoming really weird. Some were lonely in a way that made me feel guilty for not answering. Some weren't trying to be normal at all. They asked if I was single, where I lived, what I slept in, and what platonic meant, as if they could talk me out of my own request. 2 women messaged me. One ghosted after asking what shows I liked, and the other invited me to a Discord server with too many channels and a long list of rules, so I wished her good luck and closed the app. Then he messaged me. His first message was, "Where are your features from?" I almost clicked ignore. I've gotten that question in one form or another my entire life. Where are you from? Where are you really from? Are you native? Are you Spanish? Are you mixed? Have you done a DNA test? You look like my cousin. You look like a painting I once saw. You look exotic. People always think they're being original when they ask, but they never really are. Then he sent another message. "I'm sorry. That was badly asked. Your face reminds me of icons from my grandmother's house. I stared at that for a long time. It made me uncomfortable, which was probably why I answered. My family history has always been a room where everyone talks over each other. Mexican, yes, indigenous probably. Spanish maybe. Mestizo, likely. A great-grandmother nobody liked to describe. A grandfather who changed the subject. No one agrees on anything, and everyone acts like they know more than they're saying. So I asked him what he meant. His name's Andreas, but he asked me to call him Ari. He's Greek by origin, born in Thessaloniki, raised partly in Finland, and living in a city whose name I couldn't pronounce without feeling like my mouth was full of snow. He's 21, which was under the age range I'd put in the post. He told me that immediately. I should have stopped there. But he apologized so plainly that it made me feel like I was still in control of the conversation. "I know I'm too young for your post," he wrote. "I only wanted to ask the question. You don't have to answer anything else." That was the second reason I answered. He didn't try to be charming. He was almost a bit formal. He asked questions and waited for the answers. He didn't fill the silence when I took too long. He didn't send shirtless pics or late-night messages pretending to be casual. When he finally sent a picture of himself, he was standing far from the mirror with both hands visible, as if proving he had nothing to hide. He looked kind. He also looked tired. His face was narrow, his hair was dark and curly, and his eyes seemed older than the rest of him. In the second picture he sent me, snow was pressed against the window behind him, and a little blue charm hung over the doorway. I asked what it was. "For the evil eye," he said. "Do you believe in that?" He paused before answering. "My mother does." That's how he talked about anything strange. He never said he particularly believed something himself. He always gave the belief to somebody else. My mother says. My grandmother used to tell us. People know better than to, etc., etc. I thought it was interesting and probably cultural. At first we talked about ancestry. Mine, because he'd asked. His, because I asked back. He told me about Greece and Finland in alternating pieces as if neither place had fully claimed him yet. He sent pictures of food his mother made and dishes he tried to recreate, albeit terribly. He sent snow from his window. He sent voice notes while walking home, his breath catching in the cold. I started waiting for the voice notes, but slowly I started needing them. There's no dignified way to describe becoming attached to someone through a screen. You start by replying when you have time. Then you start making time. Then you realize your day has quietly rearranged itself around a person who isn't physically in it. You learn the sound of his kettle, his radiator, the way his voice changes when he's lying in bed and trying not to fall asleep before you finish an anecdote. Or he learned me quickly. He noticed when I was pretending to be fine. He remembered names I mentioned once. He asked about the person I'd lost before him, the one from Reddit. The one I told him had broken my heart. His name was Owen. I told him we'd met the same way, through a friendship post. I said we'd talked for months. We went on 2 dates and then he disappeared. He deleted his account, stopped answering, and vanished so completely that I started to wonder if I had invented the whole thing. Ari was quiet after I told him. Then he said, "Did he say goodbye?" He didn't. He looked down for a second. "I'm sorry," he said. I smiled at the screen because I thought he meant the usual thing people mean when they say that. "It's fine," I said. "People leave." Ari nodded, but his face had gone strange. That was Ari. He could be sweet for an hour, and then one sentence would make the room around me feel colder. He could talk about lemon soup or Finnish licorice or the neighbor upstairs who vacuumed every Sunday like she was trying to punish the floor. Then I'd say something ordinary, and his eyes would move past the camera toward the blue charm above his door. Once, during a video call, he asked me to turn my camera away from the mirror behind me. "Why?" "I don't like seeing you twice." I teased him for that, and he smiled. Another time I woke up to a message he'd sent at 4 a.m. his time. "Marie, do you ever wake up hungry?" I typed back. "Every single day? I'm Mexican." He didn't answer for 6 hours, and when he finally did, he wrote, "Forget I asked." I was half asleep. By month 3, our conversations weren't platonic anymore. By month 4, I was making jokes about being a crib robber. I'm 28, which isn't actually old, please don't tell me otherwise. But 21-year-olds have a way of making you feel like you should be buying retinol in bulk and discussing retirement. He hated the jokes. "You're not that old?" he said, his voice rising at the word "that." He smiled then, but his smile never lasted as long as it should have. By month 6, I was going to Finland. Before anyone says it, I did the safety things, okay. I booked my own hotel. I sent my friend his full name, address, phone number, social media, and every screenshot I had. She made a folder called "If Marie Dies in Finland." Ha! We were supposed to meet in public. Dinner first. No going straight to his apartment, no airport pickup. I wanted to see the auroras with him. That was the image that did it. I wanted to stand somewhere freezing and dark, while the sky moved purple and green above us, with Ari beside me, real and warm and no longer flattened into pixels. He promised to take me to the frozen harbor, the little Greek grocery where the owner overfed him, the cafe with korvapuusti, Finnish cinnamon cardamom buns shaped like little folded ears. They sounded delicious. Eventually, if everything felt normal, his apartment, where he said he'd make avgolemino if I swore not to judge his kitchen. I landed on a Friday. He was waiting at the airport, even though we'd agreed he wouldn't be. I was annoyed for maybe 3 seconds, and then I saw the flowers and his nervous face. He stood near the arrivals gate, shifting the little paper wrap bouquet from one hand to the other, like he didn't know what to do with it anymore. He looked exactly like himself and not like himself at all. He was taller than I expected, thinner than I expected, and more beautiful in the way real people are beautiful when you can see how badly they've been sleeping. "You came," he said. "You keep saying that like I broke into the country." For a moment he smiled like the man I knew. Then he looked at the blank space between my jaw and shoulder. I turned, but there was no one there. The first day was almost perfect. We walked through snow. We drank coffee too hot to taste. He bought me a pastry and laughed when powdered sugar got on my coat. He showed me the harbor and the church his mother liked, and the grocery where a man behind the counter said something in Greek that made Ari flush to his ears. He held my hand. At dinner, he ordered too much food and ate almost none of it. "You okay?" I asked. He looked at my mouth before answering. "Yes." That wasn't convincing. "I'm nervous." "Because I'm older, wiser, and more powerful," I joked. "No." His fork tapped once against the plate. "Because you're really here," he said. "Well, that was the plan." "I know. You're acting like I showed up unannounced." He looked at me then, quick and almost guilty. "I know," he said again. I remembered him saying one day. I remembered him saying if you were here. I remembered him sending apartment photos and aurora forecasts and telling me which month would be best. "I thought you wanted me here," I said. He opened his mouth like he was going to answer, then looked down at his plate instead. After dinner, he walked me back to my hotel. The snow had gotten softer by then, bigger flakes, slower falling. I kept brushing my shoulder against his because I wanted him to stop being so strange. I wanted him to turn back into the man from my phone. At the hotel entrance, he stopped. "You should go inside," he said. "You're sending me to bed? Alone?" I responded. I know. No hanging out in private places with the internet man you flew across an ocean to meet. But by then I was starting to fall in love with him, which made every bad idea feel a little less like a bad idea. "You must be tired. I crossed an ocean. Of course, I'm a little tired. Please." He was standing so close, and the snow had melted into his hair, making the curls darker around his forehead. His cheeks were red from the cold. He had this nervous little crease between his eyebrows, the same one I'd watched appear on video calls, whenever he was trying to translate a thought before saying it out loud. He looked like the person I'd been falling asleep with in my ear for months, real and tired and warm under his coat. I wanted to kiss the worry off his face. So I did. A small kiss. His mouth was cold from the air, but softer than I expected, and his fingers tightened around the paper-wrapped flowers in my hand. For half a second he kissed me back. Then he pulled away hard enough to stumble. "Sorry," he said. "For what?" He touched his mouth like he was checking for something. "My mother said not to bring you home tonight," he said. I stared at him. "Harry, that's a weird thing to say after kissing someone." "It's not about that." "Then what is it about?" He looked at the hotel doors behind me, then at the flowers in my hand. The paper had gone soft where the snow melted into it. "She worries," he said finally. "About me?" "About me," he said. I laughed because I was embarrassed. "I'm not dangerous," I said. He looked at me for a second too long. "I know," he said shortly. The next day he apologized. He said he'd slept badly. He said his mother was super intense. He said she called me something in Greek and that he didn't want to translate. Translate it, I said. No. Does it mean ugly? He looked at me for a long moment. It means she should mind her business, he said. That night I went to his apartment. His building was old, with yellow light in the stairwell and boots lined up outside doors. His apartment smelled like radiator heat, coffee, and him. The blue cabinets were real. The ugly lamp was real. The sweater he always wore during video calls hung over the back of a chair. I remember feeling almost dizzy with tenderness. 6 months of proof had become real. He made tea. I stood in his kitchen wearing wool socks because he'd asked me to take off my shoes. He was moving around too much, touching things and then not using them. The kettle, a mug, a spoon, the box of tea. He kept starting little tasks and abandoning them halfway through, like his body had too much feeling in it and nowhere to direct it. It really was cute. He was blushing all the way to his ears, and his curls were still damp from the snow. And every time I looked at him directly, he looked down, like I had caught him doing something embarrassing. You know, you don't have to make tea if you don't want tea, I said. I want to make you tea. You're just standing there, holding a spoon. He looked at the spoon in his hand, like he had no idea how it got there. Then he laughed, and I felt ridiculous for being worried. He made awful tea. Somehow, I don't even know how you make tea badly, but he managed it. He put too much water in one mug and not enough in the other, forgot whether I wanted sugar and apologized twice, then almost burned his fingers picking up the cup. I told him he was giving me confidence in my own domestic skills, which are relatively low. He smiled at that, but the smile faded quickly. You're okay? I asked. Yes. You don't seem okay? I'm just nervous. Ari, I'm also nervous. He nodded, but he looked past me toward the hallway. I followed his eyes. Nothing was there except his coat hanging on a hook and the little blue eye charm above the door. The same one from his pictures. Is your mom going to burst in and interrogate me? I asked. No. Good, because I only know how to say good morning in Greek, and I don't think that will help my case. That got a real smile out of him. Then I stepped closer, and he went still. I think he was trying to be careful. I think he was one of those guys who wanted so badly not to make you uncomfortable that they accidentally made everything more awkward. It made me like him more. You know, you can touch me, I said. His eyes moved to my lips and then away. I know. But you don't have to. I know that too. I was tired and far from home, and very, very in love with the version of him I had carried across the ocean. So I did what I had already done 100 times before in smaller ways through a screen. I kissed him first, and when I did, he made a sound like relief. He was scared. I knew he was scared. His hands came to my waist like he still wasn't sure he was allowed to touch me. And then his fingers curled into my sweater. He was trembling, but I was too. Nerves. Wanting. The absurd, impossible fact of finally being in the same room after all that time. I touched his cheek and he closed his eyes. That's what undid me. He looked so young like that. His mouth was cold from the walk, soft when it opened under mine, and he kissed me carefully at first, like he was afraid of doing it wrong. Then he kissed me harder, and for a moment there was no Reddit, no flight, no warning signs, no little blue charm above the door. There was only his hand at my waist, my fingers in his hair, the radiator knocking in the wall, and the snow falling outside his kitchen window. This was what I had come all that way for. Then his breath caught, and my jaw slipped. I pulled back because I thought I'd hurt myself, and I was so embarrassed I could barely look at him. I thought, great, I flew to Finland to kiss this beautiful guy and somehow dislocated my own mouth. Then Ari looked at me, not at my eyes, but at my mouth. And whatever expression was on his face made the whole kitchen go still. "Murray," he said, and it came out small. I tried to answer him, but my tongue was in the wrong place. My teeth didn't meet. Ari stepped back and I stepped forward. He said my name again. His eyes kept dropping to my mouth and then lifting back to my face like he was trying really hard not to look. I wanted to tell him I was sorry and that I was scared too, but I couldn't. Instead, I put both hands on his face, gently. His skin was warm under my palms. His mouth opened like he was going to say something, and my mouth opened wider. There was a wet click near my ear, and Ari made a sound I'd never heard from him before, too surprised to be a scream. I pressed his forehead against the roof of my mouth. His hands hit my wrists, then my shoulders, then the side of my neck. He was trying to push himself out, but there was nowhere for him to push against, because I'd already leaned over him. The back of his head slid past my teeth, and then the tea glass dropped and broke against the floor. His body kicked hard enough that one heel struck the cabinet, the blue cabinet, the one I'd seen behind him for 6 months while he made coffee, while he leaned against the counter during video calls. His fingers grabbed my sweater and twisted the fabric. His knees buckled, and I went down with him, still holding him like I was comforting him, nurturing him. His breath filled me, hot and panicked. And then finally, his breath stopped. I could feel the shape of him fighting me. His jaw, his throat, the hard line of his shoulders. My own throat widened around him with a slow ache, and my ribs opened in small clicks I felt more than heard. Ari's hands weakened against me. One of them slid down my arm and caught at my sleeve like he was still trying to hold on to the version of me that had arrived in his apartment with flowers in her hand. There really wasn't any pain. There was only room. I stopped thinking in full thoughts. I remember the floor under my knees. I remember his sleeve bunched in my hand. I remember the sound his foot made against the cabinet when his leg kicked once and then stopped. When the last of him passed my teeth, I was kneeling on his kitchen floor in my wool socks, one hand against the cabinet, breathing through my nose. The radiator knocked in the wall. The snow kept falling outside the window. There was a strand of his curly hair stuck to my lip. He tasted like lemon, and mostly I felt full. Then I remembered Owen. I didn't remember everything and only pieces at first. His nervous laugh, his hand on my back, the way he'd looked at me on the second date, so hopeful it embarrassed both of us. I remembered crying when he was gone. I remembered telling people he'd broken my heart. I started crying now too, right there on Ari's kitchen floor with broken glass near my knee and lemons still in my mouth, because why do they all have to disappear? Ari's phone buzzed on the table. The screen lit up with a message from his mother. It was in Greek, but I recognized one word immediately. Lamia. Lamia. I knew that word. I don't know Greek, but I know what people call girls like me when they have old names for it. Lamia, Empusa, Extabai, Mandarugo, Yakshi, Pontianak. Different languages. Same warning. Different mothers telling their sons not to invite me in. The message stayed there until the screen went dark. I opened my own phone after that. My Reddit post was still up. There were new messages waiting, men saying hi, hey, saw your selfie. I'm lonely too. Platonic is fine. You have interesting eyes. Where are you from? You look familiar. Where are your features from? I know I should delete it. But the thing is, I keep getting my heart broken. They always disappear before it works out.